And good morning, everyone. Welcoming you to another edition of Game Time with Kenny. Yes, Game Time with Kenny is back in the house, and we are ready to rock and roll today. This is our third episode this morning. So if you did not get a chance to watch the first two episodes, I encourage you to go back and watch the previous two episodes that we just finished. The first one was on about the NFL schedule, and we did get up to week 15. So time permitting, hopefully we will get to the completion of the NFL regular season schedule in this program. Um, so, and then the second program we touched on was we just finished it prior to starting this program. We went through the career of Sebastian Janikowski. You know what a guy he was in the NFL and some of the stats. We also showed you all some of the videos and what he did, how he made his 400th career field goal against the Denver Broncos, a short 29-yarder on a Sunday night game in Oakland. And then we also showed you the longest or the most made field goals of over 50 yards. That also was at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum against the Tennessee Titans. Um, that was also shown on a video. And then the last video of Sebastian Janikowski we showed you uh, was a playoff game in the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks when he was in Dallas. He made a 27-yard field goal to tie the game at 3. As Joe Buck called that game for an NFC wildcard game. So if you missed any of those two episodes this morning, please go back and view them and watch them, and please comment them. Um, so in this edition, we want to start off with the highlights from the NHL and the NBA from yesterday. Well, I'll tell you, what can you say about Joel Embiid? I mean, this guy, he was he came through. He played, and it was just incredible in the game that he played in yesterday's game. So I want to go ahead and I want to go through some of the stats and everything from this game. As you know, it was the only NBA game to take place. Now tonight, the Milwaukee Bucks travel to Boston to take on the Celtics, and the Portland Trailblazers will be hosting the Denver Nuggets at home in game number 3. So, time permitting, we will talk about those two games coming up. But yesterday, for the Toronto Raptors, they were led by Kawhi Leonard with 33 points. He was 5 for 5 from the free throw line. He was actually shooting 50% from downtown. He was 2 for 4 in that game. And also, I want to talk about, before we go any further, I want to talk about the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. Yes, I want to talk about this game because I want to tell you, the Warriors and the Rockets, they have not been shooting well from downtown. Well, they're ready for a breakout game. Well, in this game, I want to see Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson. Each of them make 10 3-pointers from downtown in game 3. And I want them to have 30 points each against the Houston Rockets. And that would be a combined 90 points between all three players in this game. Is it possible? Can it be done? I believe it can. And I believe the Warriors are due for a breakout game from downtown. And I'd love to see how they will respond, and if they can make 10 3-pointers each in this game. What if that did happen and each of them made 10 3-pointers? If you're the Houston Rockets, then, you're saying to yourself, well, what do we got to do to slow down these guys? If we double team them, there's going to be somebody open down in the slot, down into the paint, and they can have an easy assist and there will be a layup. If we put only one man on there, they're still going to get their points, and they're still going to make assists. They're going to make plays. And I love to see that type of reaction by the Houston Rockets to be like, what? What has just happened to us? This is really insane that we have three guys on the opposition that can make all these 3-pointers, and they're just killing us. Then how far do you have to guard out to make sure that they don't make any more? I'm hoping that the Warriors can make that type of a statement when they go into Houston on Saturday night at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, and um, 2:30 in the afternoon for those of you in the Hawaiian Standard Time Zone. I would love for that statement to be made. I would love to see the Rockets' reaction, because in game 2, yes, James Harden, he had problems with his eye. He could not really see good on the court. Is that going to affect him in game 3? Other than James Harden, who do they really have that can really step up? Well, I'll tell you what, they have an all-star by the name of Chris Paul. Capella to me is an all-star there as well. They've got to step up. They've got to make plays. They can't just rely on James Harden because one guy can't beat 5. So, time permitting, we will talk more about that game. But let's go back to Toronto, Philadelphia, and let's look at the stats. Siakam had 20 points. Not very much contribution off the bench. They were led by Powell, who had 6 points, and 2 players, Ibaka and Meeks, which both had 4. For Philadelphia, they were led by Joel Embiid, who also had 33. He was 3 for 4 from downtown and 12 for 13 from the free throw line. He only missed 1 free throw and 1 shot from downtown. That's incredible. He could have had 4 more extra points had he made both of them, and he would have had 37 for the game. They had all 5 starters in double figures. Then they had James Butler, who had 22. They had Redick, who had 15. They had Harris, who had 13. And they had Ben Simmons, who had 10. Off the bench, they had Enes III. He had 10 points. Scott had 5. And Anderson and Monroe both having 4 points. Toronto, they wanted to get the home court back. They didn't. They now have to get the split to make it a best of 2 out of 3, and 2 of the last 3 being in Toronto. So that takes care of what happened yesterday in the NBA. Now let's go to the NHL. In the National Hockey League, there were 2 games that did take place yesterday. And the Colorado Avalanche and the San Jose Sharks. The Avs had to find a way to slow down, the Sharks. And they were led by Logan Couture, who came into this game. In the last game, he had a hat trick. He has over 40 goals now in the NHL playoffs. Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals leads with 50 goals in the NHL playoffs. And then you have Couture, who's in second, who's only a few goals behind him. And he is only behind Alex Ovechkin. That is just incredible. Well, now, if Couture has his game, he could surpass him because Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals were eliminated after an overtime loss to the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 7 at Washington. And speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, if they win their next game at home, they will complete the 4-game sweep after they knocked out the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Islanders. They're on the verge of getting knocked out by Carolina. And it looked like in game 3 that they were going to make a statement. They were 1-1 at the end of the first period, 2-2 at the end of the second period. But then that third period, they fell apart. And they gave up 3 goals. And the Islanders scored none. And they lost 5-2. Well, that was the score in Denver last night. The Sharks could not muster a goal in that game. And they gave up 3. So they go back to San Jose now. Series tied at 2 with a 3-0 victory. The Boston Bruins, Patrice Bergeron scores a goal in that game. The Boston Bruins even their best of 7 with a 4-1 win in Columbus. Now they have the home ice back, and they have the best of 2 out of the next 3 in Boston. And if you look at tonight's game in the NHL, tonight we have the Carolina Hurricanes hosting the New York Islanders. And Dallas will be in St. Louis at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, and 3:30 in the afternoon for those of you in the Hawaiian Standard Time Zone. Okay, so let's go to today in sports history. What happened today in sports? Well, yesterday we talked about a lot about the Kentucky Derby, and we said that there was going to be a lot that was there. Well, in today's date as well, there was a lot about the Kentucky Derby. So speaking of May 3rd, the very first one, the very first 3 years that we are going to be talking about is all about the Kentucky Derby. Starting in 1900, the 26th Kentucky Derby, Jimmy Boland aboard Lieutenant Gibson wins in 206.25. In 1902, it was the 28th Kentucky Derby. Jimmy Winkfield on Allen A. Dale wins in 208.75. In 1909, the 35th Kentucky Derby. Vincent Powers on Wintergreen wins in 208.2. In 1934, Donald Bradman scores 206. Australia versus Worcestershire, 210 minutes, 27 fours. In 1936, the New York Yankees player Joe DiMaggio makes his Major League debut, gets 3 hits. In 1941, the 67th Kentucky Derby, Eddie Arcaro aboard Whirl Away wins in 201.4. In 1947, the 73rd Kentucky Derby, Eric Guerin aboard Jet Pilot wins in 206.8. In 1951, the New York Yankees player Jill McDougald is 5th to get 6 RBIs in an inning. He was the 9th. 1952, the 78th Kentucky Derby, Eddie Arcaro again aboard Hill Gale wins in 201.6. In 1958, at the Churchill Downs Race Course near Louisville, Kentucky, the 84th Kentucky Derby race is held. Ismael Valenzuela aboard Tim Tam wins in 2:05. Total gambling bets on the race, $1,635,500. In 1959, 2 events take place here. Betsy Rawls wins the LPGA Land of the Sky golf tournament. Detroit Tigers' Charlie Maxwell hits 4 consecutive home runs in a doubleheader. In 1961, Warren Spahn pitches a 2-hitter after pitching a no-hitter. In 1963, Leslie Norum is the only Baltimore Orioles player to homer on his first at-bat. In 1964, Mickey Wright wins the LPGA Clifford Ann Creed Golf Invitational. In 1965, third Mayor's Trophy game, New York Mets beat the New York Yankees 2-1 in 10 innings. In 1969, the 95th Kentucky Derby, Bill Hartack on Majestic Prince wins in 201.8. In 1970, 2 events take place here. The 24th NBA Championship, the New York Knicks beat the LA Lakers 4-3. the Sandra Haney wins the LPGA Shreveport Kiwanis Golf Invitational. In 1973, Kansas City Royals George Brett gets his first major league hit. In 1975, two events take place here. The 101st Kentucky Derby, Jacinto Vasquez on Foolish Pleasure wins 202. In 1975, Krista Valencic runs female world record marathon 240 15.8. In 1978, three events take place. Anderlecht wins the 18th Euro Cup II. Latest cricket test match appearance for Bobby Simpson at Kingston. West Indies all set to lose cricket test versus Australia at Kingston till riots end game. In 1979, Barry Bonds hits his 300th home run, second to have 300 home runs and 300 stolen bases. In 1980, three events take place here. The 106th Kentucky Derby, Jacinto Vasquez on Genuine Risk wins in 202. The San Francisco Giants first baseman Willie McCovey hits his 521st and final home run. Texas Rangers Ferguson Jenkins becomes the fourth to win 100 games in American League and National League. In 1981, Sally Little wins the LPGA CPC World Women's Golf International. In 1986, the 112th Kentucky Derby, Bill Shoemaker aboard Ferdinand wins in 202.8. The Chicago Cubs third baseman Ron Cey hits his 300th and 301st home run in 1986. In 1986, the New York Yankees' Don Mattingly is sixth to hit 3 sacrifice flies in a game. In 1987, Cindy Hill wins the LPGA and SNH Golf Classic. In 1992, there are 5 events that take place here. The Baltimore Orioles pitcher Greg Olson, 25, is youngest to record 100 saves. Daniel Amakopane wins the LPGA Sentinel Golf Classic. New York Mets player Eddie Murray is 24th to hit 400 home runs. Ohio Glory wins the first WLAF game after 6 losses, beat Frankfurt 20-17. In 1992, Sandra Palmer wins the LPGA Sentinel Senior Golf Challenge. In 1995, Australia beats West Indies to regain the Frank Worrell Cricket Trophy. In 1995, David Bell debuts for the Cleveland Indians, third-generation player Gus and Buddy. In 1996, Martin Moxon and Michael Vaughan make 362 first wicket Yorks versus Glam. 1997, the 123rd Kentucky Derby, Gary Stevens aboard Silver Charm wins in 202.3. In 1997, ABC Bud Light Masters Bowling Tournament, won by Jason Queen. In 2008, at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky, USA, the 134th running of the Kentucky Derby is held. Race favorite Big Brown wins by nearly 5 lengths. Second place finisher 8 Billis broke both front ankles and was immediately euthanized. Race attendance was 157,770, the second largest in history of the race. And that's what's going on today in the history of sports that happened on this day back on May 3rd. All right, so we do have time to go through looks like the last 2 weeks of the NFL schedule. So let's go ahead and do that. Week 16, the NFL on Fox will have the doubleheader. So the early game will be Jacksonville at at Atlanta. So the last 2 weeks of the NFL, there will be no Thursday night game. Week 15 is the last Thursday night game. It will only be on Sunday and Monday night football, and then the last week will be just Sunday. Looks like just Sunday only. We'll see if there's Saturday in there as well. New Orleans is in Tennessee. Carolina is in Indianapolis. I'm interested in this game, Carolina, Indianapolis. Andrew Luck and company playing against the Carolina Panthers. That should be a great game out there. New York Giants is in Washington. The NFL on Fox doubleheader. The late games, America's Game of the Week, Dallas in Philadelphia, and Arizona in Seattle. Arizona, Seattle, you know, they always play usually the last week of the regular season, but this year it's going to be the second to the last week in Seattle. When these two play up in Seattle, some great finishes, some great games have been played within the last few years. I expect nothing different in this game. So I'm looking forward to that Arizona-Seattle game to see what happens there. And the NFL on CBS will have the regional coverage play with Detroit at Denver. That will be the late game. Also, the Oakland Raiders and the LA Chargers. The LA Rams are in San Francisco. Those will be the late games. Early ones will be Buffalo at New England. Houston will be in Tampa Bay. Baltimore will be in Cleveland. Cincinnati at Miami, and the Steelers at the Jets. Sunday night NFL is Kansas City at Chicago, and Monday Night Football is Green Bay at Minnesota. Another game in the Metrodome. Wow, I'm sorry, Metrodome is not there anymore. But I'll tell you, let's talk about the Metrodome real quick. You know, I used to love the Metrodome, watching the Packers and Vikings and some of the elites go there. Joe Montana in his days used to go to Minnesota and take on the Vikings. I mean, some of the greatest players to ever walk through the Metrodome was just unreal. Dwight Clark, Roger Craig, you know, it's just amazing. John Elway for the Denver Broncos, Tim Brown of the Oakland Raiders. You know, some of these guys that went through and played in Minnesota, it was incredible. I'll never forget what those guys did in the NFL, and it's just remarkable legacies that they left behind. I'm interested in that Kansas City Chicago game that's Sunday night. I think that's going to be a really good one. And the Rams and 49ers in Santa Clara, you know, that's going to be awesome as well. All right, now let's go to week 17 and the last week of the NFL season. Everything will be on Sunday. Both CBS and Fox will have a doubleheader game. First, let's start with the games on Fox. Washington at Dallas, Green Bay at Detroit, the Bears at the Vikings, the Eagles and the Giants, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, New Orleans at Carolina. Those are the early games. I wouldn't be surprised if they put either Philadelphia and the New York Giants or Green Bay, Detroit as a late game as well in the NFL on Fox. But I'm looking forward to that Green Bay Detroit game. You know, who could forget about that Hail Mary that Aaron Rodgers threw in the end zone in that game when they played in Detroit? That was just amazing in what he did in that one. So I look forward to that one. The Arizona Cardinals will be at the LA Coliseum against the Rams, and San Francisco will be in Seattle. The NFL on CBS will have the Jets and the Bills, Cleveland, Cincinnati, the Chargers and Chiefs, Miami, New England, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Tennessee, Houston, and Oakland, Denver will be late. Well, it's really, I think Oakland, Denver, that will be the game to see. It's going to be great on that one. Um, I do want to thank you for watching this edition of Game Time with Kenny. It's been a pleasure to have 3 episodes this morning. Please subscribe to this channel. Send it to your Facebook friends, Twitter, any social media sites that you may have. And it's always good to be with you. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Have a great day.